Are you working on your author career but struggling to get that first book published? Does the goal of being an author seem too lofty? Or thoughts of having multiple books and making a full-time living are as fantastical as living in Cinderella's castle? Welcome to Discovered Wordsmiths, a podcast where aspiring authors can be heard. Join Stephen Schneider as he finds and talks to authors you may not know, but authors that have gotten their foot on the author career path. Hear what they've done to get there and where they want to go now. Settle back. It's time for a bit of inspiration and advice. Come listen to today's Discovered Wordsmith.
So it sounds really great. Let's talk some other stuff.
Okay.
When you first started writing at 19, what are some things that you've learned?
I only wrote poetry at 19. I didn't really start writing until I was probably maybe 30.
Okay. So what are some things you've learned over the years that you're doing different now than you used to do?
Don't give up and keep writing.
Oh, did you give up at some point? Quit?
Yes, plenty of times.
Okay. All right.
And one of the two documentaries I'm working on right now, I haven't done anything with it for a little while because I'm kind of waiting on interviews to be recorded because I'm transcribing interviews to be written, for the book. Excuse me. So that is just a matter of me getting a hold of some of the people to be like, all right, let's sit down like we are with you and me and tell me your life story and I'll write it out.
God. What's the documentary about?
Again, they're not getting published yet, so I don't want to get into it too much.
Okay,
so
no problem.
Yeah, just the publisher is like, hey, we're going to be sending over some press material and an NDA you need to sign coming up. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll stop talking about this for a little bit.
Nice. Okay. So when you're writing, what software and services do you use?
Oh, just Word. Nothing special.
Okay. And since it's a graphic novel, do you have any software between you and the artists that you use?
No, that's all on them. I just tell them what it is I want it to look like and then make the changes before they go permanent to it. I mean, some people are using computers, so it's easy to erase. And some they need to know before they go to ink.
Okay.
So.
All right. And besides.
And I've gotten into arguments with Ken Hunt about how I want it to look, and he had to explain to me why it can't look the way it is. But it's all fine.
Okay. So besides getting on podcasts and getting your book in some local stores, what else are you doing to market the book?
That's kind of it, other than calling stores and sending them emails or going to at conventions, festivals. I have a convention I'm coming up this Saturday. I don't remember the name of it, but it's being put on by a Zombie Hideout. It's a comic book store in Springfield.
Nice. Okay.
But I just don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But I'm going to be there as a guest all day selling Lada.
Nice. Good. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about Collaborators, because doing a graphic novel, a comic book, definitely is a multi-person endeavor. And you have to work with artists, which is different. Whereas a lot of authors working with collaborators, it's another author. So
right.
What's that like to work with the artist? What role do you do and how do you work together on that?
It can be very difficult, but in the end, it's just a matter of making sure that it gets drawn the way you want it and the way they think they can draw it.
Okay. What issues do you happen to come up with doing something that's also just graphic?
Trying to explain how it is in my head versus how they're going to draw it, and explaining to me that it's just not going to be able to be drawn that way, or that's a little beyond the scope of their art. Ken Hunt's an amazing artist, but he's explained to me a couple times about how a couple things just don't quite work the way I'm describing them, so he had to change it. And what he did was perfectly fine. So,
okay,
just angles, body language, the way the body is, the way the body moves.
So, when you're writing for a graphic novel, that's different than writing a novel itself. How do you do that to get it to the art? I mean, is it broken up like a screenplay, or what do you do?
Yeah, you have to describe every panel and then make sure that they caught your notes on what's happening in the panel before they move on to the next one. The woman walks into a bar. She puts the money down. The bar's got people behind her, X, Y, and Z person, and this is how she's dressed. And this person's looking at her suggestively, close up on his eyes. Then we have a shock moment of her getting, inappropriately touched or whatever, and his arm being broken. And then she's leaving, fury lines above her head. But he already knows what the main character will look like, and I just kind of leave it up to his interpretation of like, what do the two barflies look like? Kind of draw it however you think. Draw a barfly like you think the barfly looks.
Okay. And have you ever changed part of the story based on what's being drawn to?
Yes, I've had to do that multiple times. It happens all the time.
Oh, okay. So what changed? What made you change something?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but that happens all the time in comics.
Okay.
Because the artist is gonna interpret it one way, and it might not be exactly the way you wanted it. So you might have to change the dialogue to reflect what's going on.
And the short story collection coming out this fall, is that also graphic or is it just stories?
It's a short story collection with a bunch of pictures in it by various artists.
Okay, so not so much of a comic book feel as illustrated.
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. What other plans do you have for the next? Do you have a whole different series planned at some point?
Right now, just that short story collection. If I start thinking too far ahead past that, then I'm not going to have the ability to focus on just the one project right now. So, and the hardcover coming out, which is going to be a compilation of all the covers we've had, plus an unprinted comic book that I did years ago. That's the same thing as the graphic novel. It's 22 pages of a comic book. It's the Vlada story. It never got printed, so it's going to be put into the hardcover.
Okay, great. Well, Chris, we talked about if you talk to a reader, what you would tell them to buy your book. What advice would you have for other authors out there, especially somebody wanting to get into comic books?
Make sure you have money.
Okay.
Because you're not, unless you can draw it yourself, you got to make damn sure you've got money.
What to be aware of? What do they need the money for?
Pay the artist.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the biggest that you gotta pay. Unless you can draw, you need money to pay the artist. You're not gonna find an artist that's gonna do it for free.
Right. Yep.
At all. It's just not gonna happen. It's blunt, but that's just the truth. And people are like, oh well, I can draw, and I've seen people draw garbage. I'm in a few comic book groups or whatever, and it's like people are trying and then they're not, and I'm like, it's just really kind of. Anyone can make a comic book. You just got to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into when it comes to the art. If you can draw, great. Draw it, write it yourself. Otherwise, just know that you got to pay an artist, and it's not going to be cheap.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, Chris, I look forward to reading the book. Like I said, I loved Dracula, and I love J.D. Barker's prequel. So I look forward to seeing what your gender swapping switch on the whole story is. I appreciate you getting on today, even though you didn't feel good.
Yeah, I don't know what I have. I think it's just a cold, so hopefully it'll pass.
Yeah. You got a radio show tonight?
No.
Okay.
I'm not doing anything when I get off with you. I'm pretty much going to go eat and then probably go to bed.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you for taking some time and talking with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Like your Star Wars poster in the background.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I had a green screen up and I broke the tab holding it, so I got to get it back up. But I can't use green screen with Zencastr anyway, so.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, is that what this is? This is okay. I'm not familiar with this program.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Discovered Wordsmiths. Come back next week and listen to another author discuss the road they've traveled, and maybe, sometime in the near future, it might be you.